Can God be serious? Can God be serious? Commanding love? Can God be serious about commanding us to love Him as completely as to say one's whole heart, one's whole soul, one's whole might? Really? Seriously. I think I have a problem with this because I am a romantic at heart, as many of you are. And if Cheryl, my beloved spouse, had originally, upon our first meeting at Princeton University, had she commanded me to love her, I think my crazy antenna would have gone up, right? As it is, of course, I don't mind telling you that she did not command me to love her. It's sort of just, it came over me, as I recall, after we watched a Woody Allen movie one night. And when I declared that I loved her, she was kind of surprised, right? It was out there. But I'll admit it, as soon as those words escaped my lips, she did, in some sense, command me, and has. Do I sound like a henpecked husband? Do I, Dan? Do I sound like I've surrendered my manhood for the sake of the love of a woman? If I do, you should come to this Super Bowl party that we're having this afternoon and see for yourself. My point is this. Here's my point. Love, in all its forms, is an act of the will. Family love, an act of the will. Friendship love, an act of the will. Romantic or erotic love, an act of the will. And today, when we're talking about our love for God, our love as human beings for God, here also, we are summoned as if by a command, not as a transactional, I give you this, you give me that relationship. We're summoned as if by command. Now here's what you may be thinking. You may be thinking that we have options. You may be thinking we could say no. We could defy the decree. We could disobey the order. On the basis of what? That we know ourselves better than Yahweh, the Most High? That we have other gods down the street that we might want to fall in love with more? Hey, Yahweh, I'm just being honest. It's not you, Yahweh. It's me. It's me, Yahweh. I've just fallen for this blonde fertility god down the street, and she's promised me, fun and pleasure, and I just love the thought of spending my years with her. I hope you don't hate me, Yahweh. We can just be friends. Really? There's a great book by Graham Greene. It's called The End of the Affair. And it was made into a movie by the same name. And Graham Greene is this Roman Catholic. But he's not your run-of-the-mill religious devotee. He realizes, for example, that the intensity of our human encounters often impedes or clouds our love for God. That is, people get in the way. If I hate what a person has done and said, that hate impedes my approach to God in worship. I've had it happen to me. If I love a person, that love seems to own me, and it seems to occupy my entire soul. And pretty soon that owner requires me to do or say something that might devastate a whole network of relationships. In divorce or infidelity. Here's the thing. God wants it all. God wants it all. God wants it all. But out of that all-encompassing love, other loves find full expression. A codependent wife, for example, becomes less codependent. A passive-aggressive sibling communicates more directly, not as passively. A narcissistic neighbor breaks the mirror through which he looks at other human beings and says, "What can this person do for me?" People change because of the love of God. The love of God purifies and purges, it clarifies and cleanses. It takes us out of our transactional, bargain, co-equal way of thinking about our relationships. And it allows us to see how one-sided this is, how lopsided our life is. Let me read to you once again this little excerpt from the passage in Deuteronomy 6. A land with fine large cities that you did not build. Houses filled with all sorts of goods that you did not fill. Hewn cisterns that you did not hew. Vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. That's lopsided. That's one-sided. It's as if I'm reading this passage and I'm saying, I was born into this abundance. It's all around me. Even if I'm in a lower middle class neighborhood, even if I were raised in a family that wasn't that affluent, there's such abundance. And I didn't ask for it. Anyway, in Graham Greene's novel, The End of the Affair, Sarah and Maurice are lovers who steal away and sleep with one another. She's married to someone else. But of course, there's not much sleeping going on. There's a lot of sexual intercourse, dare I say. And it's during World War II, and consequently the Germans are dropping bombs all over the places where they might rendezvous. But then on one occasion, a bomb crashes through the roof of the flat where Maurice and Sarah have gotten together, and sadly, Maurice is killed, apparently. In fact, it's true. Sarah, who knows something about medicine, checks his pulse, listens for his breath, can't hear a heartbeat, can't sense his breath, and her secret lover is dead. The person around whom she's organized her whole secret life is gone. And then in a panic, she runs back up to her bed where they had just made love, and she clenches her hands together and she prays. She prays first this pleading kind of prayer. Please, God, please. This is from an atheist, by the way. Please, God, please. Let him live. Let him live. And then, I'll give him up forever. Only let him live. And she says this almost as if she's striking a bargain in the marketplace. Let him live and I'll give him up forever. And it's the only thing she has to offer God. Her will. Well, no sooner than she prays this way, here comes the badly bruised and bloodied Maurice ascending the stairwell. He's alive. He's alive. Oh my God, he's alive! And as she's buttoning, just think about this. As she's buttoning up her clothes and the sirens are sounding the all clear, she's utterly dumbfounded. Maurice is confused. Where are you going? She says, love doesn't end just because we don't see one another. People go on loving God their whole lives, even though they don't see him. And to this cryptic remark, the atheist lover, Maurice says, well, that's not my kind of love. And Sarah replies, maybe there's no other kind. Maybe there's no other kind. Maybe love, all loves, grow out of that same tree. Maybe they spring from that same ground. Keep these words that I'm commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children. Talk about them when you go home or when you're away, when you lie down, when you rise up. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Fix them as an emblem on your forehead. Write them on their doorposts of your house and on your gates. This is serious. Do this. Take it more seriously than a flighty emotion or an intense appreciation. Take it seriously. Seriously. Take the commandment to love more seriously than you even might take your own family, your own friends. And dare I say this, take it more seriously than you will your own sports team. Because in the end, it might save you from a life of despair. The story is told, and I've heard it more than once, of an elderly couple, 50 years of marriage. They enter a nursing home, and the wife develops dementia, Alzheimer's, and she can't remember her husband. She can't remember the 50 years. And she becomes attracted to one of the other elderly members of the community. She wants to marry someone else in that nursing home. And the question for the man isn't, it's not, is this right? Or is this moral? Is this adultery? The question is, does he still love her? Does he still love her even though she doesn't return that affection in the same way she did since high school? Does he still love her with the kind of love that will outlast them both? With the kind of love that flows to him and through him? In Les Miserables, this musical that I've quoted often, there's a song that might help. You may know the story, Victor Hugo's novel. The story goes that during the Napoleonic Wars in France, in the midst of these traumatic days, Fantine is raped and gives birth. Jean Valjean violates parole after having stolen a loaf of bread for his family. And he becomes mayor of this small town. And Cosette, Fantine's child, the result of rape, grows up as the ward of Valjean. Think about all the interconnected relationships. Valjean promises to raise Cosette to the light, whatever that means. And wonderfully, in the story, there's a young man named Marius who spies Cosette in the streets of Paris, and voila, there it is. Love, 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 but not so fast. Someone else has loved Marius all these years from afar. Does she matter? Her name is Eponine. And when she sings her disappointment, the selflessness of her love kind of gives way to something more sacred. Listen to these lyrics. I love him. I love him, but every day I'm learning. All my life, I've only been pretending. Without me, his world will go on turning. A world that's full of happiness that I have never known. I love him. I love him, but I love him. But only on my own. And I say, maybe not. Maybe the author of that love you think is on your own is Yahweh the Most High. To love another person is to touch the face of God. This is the theme that both Les Mis and the book of Deuteronomy have in common. To love another person is to touch the face of God. Seriously. Seriously. This love overflows for romantic partners and strangers. This love overflows for romantic partners who become strangers. This love is for children who break our hearts because they do stupid things. This love is for children who become responsible adults. Think about just a couple more things. Think about the elder brother in the story of the prodigal son. You remember this story? The elder brother, he doesn't go away. He doesn't disobey. Right? He stays close to home. He stands outside the party. I'm not going in. And the father comes out and pleads with him, please. There's love for him too. Think about the story that Jesus tells in response to the Sadducees who say, hey Jesus, there's a man who's married to a woman and then he dies. And he has 6 brothers. And she marries all 6 brothers. So she's married 7 men from one family. In the resurrection, they say, whose wife will she be? And Jesus says, you know, in the resurrection, they're neither married nor given in marriage. They're like angels in heaven. This is serious.